Hello and welcome to the 7th and final installment of the ARCHLine.XP architectural online courses. My name is Zoltán Tóth, your host today. I'm the partner manager of ARCHLine.XP and a CAD and modeling enthusiast. So I'm going to show you not only how to use our products, but also the little tips and tricks I picked up along the way. So, when you are designing something, you not only have to be effective, you have to be fast as well. So we are going to show you how to do things in a very short time, but not compromising the result. Last time we looked at how to create rendered images from a two-story family house we all built together, and we discussed how to use the integrated rendering engine of ARCHLine.XP to get a result like the one you see on the screen. However, today we are going to go one step further, meaning that we are going to get our design to move. And how does that sound actually? How does it sound to make your design look like this, with human figures that are moving and with high quality textures and lights and elements and all kinds of different things on your floor plan? You see, everything is moving in here. The leaves are going to be blown by the wind in the outside. People are moving. The candle lights is flickering. So it's all about movement. It's all about making your design more interesting while giving it movement and giving it high quality texture. So the question on our mind is actually, how do we get from here to there? So that is where we are going to start, and that is what we are going to discuss today during our presentation on ARCHLine.XP Live, which is an architectural visualization software. Instead of telling you what it is, I'm going to show you what it is, because the whole point is to make this into this. So that's what we are doing to discuss. So ARCHLine.XP Live, up until to what I have shown you before, this is going to be a little bit different. So first of all, we have the model, right, that we created during the last couple of sessions, and we set up a few things in this model which we all want to export. For example, we want to export the geometry and the views, perspectives, obviously, that we have set up. So we have a bunch of views here on the ground floor, on the first floor, several bedrooms which are all furnished. We have a nice street which are populated with buildings and other stuff. We want to export that. So if you want to export this model into a rendering engine, we want to make sure that this data is not lost. The other thing we want to export is the materials that we have set up. Remember last time we talked about rendering styles, render styles and material properties? That we don't want to lose. We want to keep that. So we want to make sure that however we set up this model, this data is not going to be lost. Just a reminder, when we are placing render styles, we can jump into this colored view, which shows you which areas and properties have a certain render style and which you haven't set up. This is just to show you that we already prepared this model with the correct styles, but we want to see the result in another program as well. So even if we export this, we want to make sure that the result is going to be there. Yeah, if I hover my mouse, I see that these have all been given render styles. Another thing what we want to make sure that we don't lose is the shadows and the north direction. We want to make sure that the shadows are going to be on spot and the sunlight is going to be correct as well. So let me just navigate to an external view. Just a second, let me go to the perspectives, find an outside view, that's right. Okay, shadows. We already discussed how to turn them on. I'm just going to go to this bar and turn on the shadows. And we know that the shadows look like that because the geolocation and the north sign, north direction has been all set up like that. So that again is something that we want to export. Another thing that we don't want to lose is the animation path, because we already created an animation around this building. Let me just show you what we created before. This kind of spline holds an animation path. Let me just quickly play you this animation I did. I'm not a professional cameraman, but I think this would do. So all these things we want to nicely wrap up and export into ARCHLine.XP Live, which is our real-time architectural visualization software. And that's what we are doing now. Let me just turn off the shadows for now. We don't need them. And we are leaving ARCHLine behind and going into Live, which you can reach by the Rendering Live button. The software tells you that it might take some time for the model to pass from one software to the other, and from this point onwards we are going to work in Live. Now, the reason why we made Live in the first place is because we wanted to give you a tool with which you can create visuals in seconds, basically. Images that even at an early stage you can send to your clients. You might not want to spend too much time on these things. You want to get results, right, in a short time. So even now with this point, you see that you end up with a model, which if you look at the clouds carefully, you see that the clouds are moving. because ARCHLine Live is all about movement and high quality textures. Now let's just investigate very quickly what imported from ARCHLine. We talked about perspectives, which we have all here. So if I click on this jump list, you see the very same perspectives as we set up in ARCHLine. Nicely. So let's just browse through. Let's see what we have here. We have a couple of bedrooms, and we have a hallway, and lastly we have an outdoor area. So that was one thing. If I click on this folder icon, I see that these are already images. So if you want to send to your clients this early stage of your model, you can do that. You don't have to manually wait for rendering because these images are already done. But we are going to enhance them a little bit further. Let's check out the sunlight. We see that the north direction has imported and the shadows are spot on. So you can find the best possible time of the day if you want to show your model in the best possible light. Now, another thing that we have imported was the animation, which we are pulling up now. So from this jump list, you can pull up the animation we have created. And if I click on play, you see the very same thing as you saw before, only this time it is done in ARCHLineXP Live. So this video doesn't have to be rendered at this point because we are going to enrich it. And let's just go back to the views, find the views that we are looking for, and talk about materials, because materials are again something that have all been given render styles and they are not lost. So if a particular piece is marked as a wall, then all the properties for the glass, for example, for the concrete, they are going to be stored in here. And there's one particular scenario which I want to show you, and that is with the moving surfaces. There's quite a few of them. Water would be one example. If you have a water surface and you have set up the right render style for it, then it's going to be moving in live. And that's again something you cannot really do in a CAD software. For that you need some kind of other visualization. Now, jumping back to where we started, let's check out that lamp, because lamp sources are again some things that have been grabbed from ARCHLine. You can turn these lamps on and off, just to show you that these things are coming from the modeling phase as well. Remember, we created this ceiling lamp quite a while ago, and let's see how we emphasize things, how we modify them, because it's one thing to import stuff, but how can you customize it? Let's start with I think the patio would be fine. So we just going to move right there. Let me just navigate there. Navigation, by the way, works the same way. Shift key and the scroll button. I'll show you that later on in detail. So let's pull up the details of this patio, and you can see that even though the material properties have been set up, you can fine tune that. So if you want to make your surface a little bit more brighter or rougher, bump mapping would be implemented, and that's the way you do it. Now you see over there a mistake. There's one piece of slab which doesn't have the right material. That's fine, because here in the object and material library, I can bring up those textures that came with the model. So if I now look up bright white, which is the texture of our walls, then I can just drag and drop it onto the problematic surfaces. Now the problem is solved. So that's just to show you that some way of design can be done in live as well. So if you want to change materials, that's exactly the time and place for that. Now let's proceed with the built-in materials of live. For that, we have quite a few examples. Let's start with grass. I'm not sure where to find it, so I'm just going to, I think, go to the search bar and type in grass. It could be an environment, but just to be sure, I'm just going to type in grass, enter, and you find the right one. Drag it and drop it, and there you go. The texture is now changed. Let's go to the outside and see some few examples. So let's say I want to change the driveway to something much higher quality. This cobblestone would be nice. If I go closer, you see that this looks like a 3D surface. It's not. It's just trick on the eye, but it does look very high quality. So if I want to create additional elements here, for example, I want to give an asphalt covering for the road, then just grab it, drag and drop it, and it's going to be black. Okay, another thing, I have several instances of the same driveway. I don't want to change it one by one, so I'm just going to go with all instances, which overrides elements that I don't want to change. So I'm just going to switch off the all instances and make that particular slab a concrete covering. So yeah, that's exactly the outcome I was looking for. This is stunning. So let's go to the backyard. Okay, this is a good way to show you the navigation tool, this paper airplane thingy, with which you are able to sort of fly around your model and find the things that you want to see. It might happen that you want to access places which are not to be found on your views, but that's the way to do it. So here you go. Let's just go closer and continue working on this patio, because there's a few things we have to figure out here. Namely, the water surface is not at all good. I want to change it to something else. I'm just going to go to the water library and change it to something else. Maybe this is too rough, but you get the idea. Let's go with a pool water like that. Oh, there you go. Much better now. Another thing I want to change is maybe the ladders leading into this pool. Remember, we turned off the all instances mode, so here you have to turn it back on, and then you end up with something like this. I want to change it back to Chrome. I think it's better that way. Perfect. So that's how you can enhance the materials with content which is coming exactly from Live. So Live comes with an elaborate material library. Another thing that we might need to investigate is what happens if you want to create your own materials. So you might want to see how to create something new. So you just click on this button over here, creating a new folder, which I have to rename, but this is where I'm going to store my own things, new materials. There you go. It's going to be in alphabetical order. And here, I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to show you how to do it. So clicking on the plus icon, you can create a new material based on a color or texture. So if you have an image, maybe a seamless texture, then you can do it that way. So you can just name it and set up the properties. I'm not going to do this because we don't need that, but I just wanted to make a very quick detour about this. Now, let's proceed with objects, because the biggest problem with working in CAD is the number of surfaces will be very heavy on your design. So Live doesn't really care about the number of surfaces. That's because of the different engine it uses. So if I want to create, let's say, a model of a car or human figures, then I can just do that just fine. So I'm just going to go to the object library and find a car. I think I have a very nice red roadster where I'm going to by the way, if you see jumping, that is because ARCHLine.XP Live is saving, I think, every 20 paces. So whenever you do 20 things, then ARCHLine is going to save, just stops for a very few, just a few seconds. So dragging and dropping this high detail car, this is not in the right place. So I need to transform these objects. By selecting the elements, you can transform them. But let me show you where you can actually find these elements. It's in the ribbon up there. So movement, rotation, and scaling are the three things that we'll be using much more often. And using the 1, 2, 3 keys on your keyboard, you can toggle back and forth between these elements. So now number 1 moves the element, number 2 is just going to tilt it, and again jumping back to number 1, then I can just push it downwards. Yeah, I think this is good. I could be spending more time on that, but you get the idea. Next thing what I have to add is human figures to make the scene more lifelike, and for that we have a few people over here. So Dennis is going to be walking towards the car, but maybe I want to move him, rotate him a little bit. And there's another person I want to talk about, and that is going to be a moving person. Let me just jump in and put down Sophia, who is an animated model. She's going to start moving anytime soon. Yeah, she's already moving. There you go. She's a bit lonely here, so we might add somebody else over here. But let's just go outside for now, because the next thing we want to add is some foliage. Because Live is very good with adding trees and plants and other kind of foliage. So let's discover that further. Maybe on the driveway, all this concrete is making me dizzy, so I'm just going to use one tree. If you want to get how big these things are, there's the gray human figure next to it, so that gives you a context. Sorry, in terms of the size. Let me just grab the tree and place it over there. We made one copy, but with continuous placement you can have more. So just like that. Click, click, and it's done. With the backyard, I think clicking some more, but it's always good to mix the elements. It's never good practice to use the same objects for all the time, because it's going to look like it's made of clones. So I'm just going to mix them up a little bit. This is still a bit cumbersome for me, so if I want to, for example, paint a surface with foliage, there's a tool for that too. So I'm just going to click on this button over here, and I can define with what I want to brush. I want to paint the surface. I want to go with small bushes or small grove. Yeah, you see that there are elements you can add to a palette like this, 2 kinds of bushes, and then by clicking, I can just paint the surface with bushes. And with this, you get a much more realistic result because the elements are going to be sort of mixed together. I want to increase the size of my paintbrush, so I'm just going to do just that. Density could be made higher as well, but I don't want it to be a jungle actually, so I just want to sparkle the things in. Just randomize it a little bit. And go with a eraser if you want to get rid of the elements that you have created. Maybe you have painted over concrete, for example, then this might come in handy. Grass would be a nice addition, just like that. Grass comes with thousands, if not millions of surfaces, so you can see with this that ARCHLine doesn't really care about the number of surfaces. It just cares about getting the job done, to be honest. So Small Grove is going to paint with trees and bushes, but these palettes you can customize and you can create your own. I like to jump in with a few larger trees, so that way the site is a bit more realistic. So let's get one there and another one on the corners. You don't want to hide what you want to show, obviously, but these are looking very good in the background. Maybe if you would import some rocks and other things, things would be even more realistic. Now let's jump back into a view which we already know. This street view will be fine, because there's one particular, well, should we call it an object? No, I think we should call it an effect. There are moving sort of objects in ARCHLine Live. One example would be fire. So let me just look for a fire effect and just dragging and dropping it. There you go. I think we should make it a bit darker, so that way we can see the result. There you go. So you have a nice campfire in your next to your building, which makes it a bit more homely. I think this is a bit dark, so I'm just going to crank it up, making it a bit more bright. And after that I will show you how to import elements from ARCHLine, because it might happen that while you are designing, there's a new object, for example, from the 3D warehouse, which you want to import, and we should talk about how to do that. So we are going to jump back into ARCHLine and find one element that we need. I think this garden lamp that you see on the left hand side, which, by the way, it came from the 3D warehouse. Clicking on the cogwheel, I can export this particular object into Live. It's already done, so I can jump back into Live and see what my result looks like. Let me just navigate back. And if I now go to my object library, just like that, I should go to the imported objects. I think, well, I have two folders with the same name, so let me just go back. There's one object which says imported objects, and, well, that's not the one. Let's just exit it and go to the other. And here we go. We have the garden lamp. Let's position it as a continuation of this small wall over here, which acts as the boundary of my property. Okay, this is not good. Why is that not good? There are no materials and the light source is not in the right place. So I'm just going to go to the material library, add a glass surface to the lamp. There you go. And I think for the covering, some darkish metal covering would be better. So let me just find it in the right library. Yeah, that would be good. One there and another one there. Last thing I have to figure out is actually the light source is not at the right place. You see that it's pushed to the bottom, and I have to move it upwards, otherwise it's not going to be good. Okay, just, well, how about we move it a little bit upwards with this? Yeah, there you go. So that way you can bring in elements from ARCHLine, and with this light settings I'm going to talk about a bit further when we get to the inside. I think that's what we should be doing next. Let's look at the lamps. I did show you before how to handle the lamps in ARCHLine, but not in Live. So let's go back to Live, turn on the light editor, and you see that every single light source has a node, a marker next to it. If I click on it, I can access the lamp and I can turn things on and off. And also, I can choose if I want this to be a helper light or real shadow casting light. Now the difference is in performance. So if you want all your lights to be shadow casters, then the result is much more lifelike, obviously, but it might take more processing power from your computer. The intensity I can decrease a bit, so it's not going to be burnt out. So this way you can fine-tune your scenes. Now let's head back outside. And I think it's time now to update the visuals, because my image now is not in sync. But if I click on that icon over there, then I can update my visual. Let's just jump into the folder and see what we have here. That's right. So that's the end result, what we are looking for. That's now something I would be proud to send to my clients. The initial stage, wasn't sure about that. Another thing what we have to sort of get right is, well, by the way, here's where you can, almost forgot, where you can set up the resolution. So if you want to set up the resolution for the images that you are exporting, eventually with ARCHLine.XP Live you can access the animation that I did before, but this time we are not only going to sort of access the animation what we did, this one, but we're also going to record another one. So let me just hit the play icon and see that is the animation I started with. Yeah, there you go. And now it's time to create an additional custom animation path. Let me just make it a bit longer because it was too short and too fast. So there you go, much better now. Yeah, so that is actually I think it is very good for my clients to get an idea of how my project is going to look like. You can, you know, scrub along this path and you can add additional animations. If the paths are already recorded, then here you can find them. But now it's time to get another animation. So all I have to do, define what I want to start from and where I want to end up. And by clicking on these icons, so this is where I'm starting my animation from, and I'm going to move upwards and look down a bit. There you go. Let's tilt it and hit the plus icon, and now I have 2 keyframes between which the animation is going to be created. So this is going to be 8 seconds long. So if I hit the play button, then it's a nice upward lifting movement with which I can show you how the model actually looks like. By the way, if you experience these jumps, on my end they don't appear, but perhaps the streaming is something that is very heavy on my computer. I'm going to push this together, these 2 animations, as a sequence with a transition between them. So with ARCHLine Live, you don't have to have an external video manipulation software. You can just brush your videos together with a nice transition. So that was animation 1, and now animation 2 starts. So you can have multiple sequences and you end up with a very nice outcome basically. So that is about animation. You can just click on that camera icon and then the video is going to be exported. And that is actually the end result, what we are looking for. I just loaded up a new version of the project, which is already finished with all these trees and cars and elements, and everything is in movement, and there would be candle lights and the lights are spot on. So you could be obviously spending more time on this, but the idea is to get visuals instantly, so you don't have to wait for rendering. You just have to grab these images as soon as you can. So that actually wraps up what I wanted to discuss with this project, and I think the end result is something worth mentioning. Let's just find a good view with which we can say goodbye to this model, and let's look at the results. So the results are the videos that we created before this show, and with that I can demonstrate perfectly how ARCHLine is creating videos. There you go. Just a few things to mention. ARCHLine.XP Live is a rendering engine that we make. I did mention that ARCHLine.XP, the design software, is able to connect with third-party renderers, but the best connection is obviously done with our own engine, which is ARCHLine.XP Live, with which you can create these elements. Now, Live is unlike the design software. It's a graphics card, a GPU-based rendering, and that's why it's so fast. That's why it's so high quality. Meanwhile, I'm rolling you a few other videos showing you other projects that are being realized with Live. If you don't own ARCHLine.XP, that's fine. You can use Live with other design softwares because Live is able to import OBJ and FBX files. So if you have files created in these file formats, then you can use them in ARCHLine.XP Live as well. The point is that we are open to other software solutions as well. That is actually what I wanted to discuss during this session. If you have any questions about this, then I'm happy to answer. I see a few questions rolling in. There was a question about the technology behind it, and one of my attendees just answered that. Let me just read it out. ARCHLine.XP Live is basically targeted for visualization and animation, and it uses the Unreal Engine 4. Now, if you're not familiar with Unreal Engine, it's just enough to say that in the gaming industry, when it comes to video games and esports, the A-list games are using this engine. So we're using the same engine as these guys, and that's why we can visualize so many surfaces. Now, let's just go back to the results. I just love how this turned out. Another question, I want to see how the lights outside I may make render. Let's say, I don't understand this question about the lights, so if you want to explain a bit further, then that would be a bit better for me. Okay, so this is where we started from, and we ended up with this very nice video. So in just a few sessions during the 7, what I did so far, I showed you how to create a building. So how to create a 1-story then 2-story building with a roof, with some furnishing, with some external elements, surroundings. We already talked about how to create plot stems, plot layouts, sections, elevations. We modified the materials and we added render styles to make the renderings better. Then we made some rendered images, which actually happened last time, so let me just pull up. So that was the rendering image that we ended up with, and eventually we made the whole thing into a moving, stunning experience. I would like to thank you for your attention for these 7 sessions that you were following me for, and that actually sort of wraps up our investigation into the ARCHLine.XP product line. Just a quick reminder, we talked about ARCHLine.XP, the design software, and we talked about Live, the visualization software. But that is not the end of our journey, because we are going to have another session starting from the 16th of April, which is going to be all about interior design. So for now, we looked at the external things, but now we're just going to jump in and I will show you how to create that. So how to create furnishing, kitchen, cabinets, tiling on the wall, tiling on the floors, how to use external elements like this carpet over here or this orange bowl, how to get the lights right, how to get the materials even better. So during the next few sessions, which are starting from the 16th of April, so next Thursday, right after Easter, we are going to investigate how to create that. So it's going to be an exciting stuff. So please, stay with me for that. Another question, if we buy ARCHLine.XP, ARCHLine 2020 today, is there a way to launch ARCHLine.XP Live 2019? Well, yes. So at the moment we have ARCHLine.XP 2020. This software is the 2020 version, and the design or the rendering engine that I showed you, this one, is still the ARCHLine Live 2019. But if you buy it now, obviously you will get a free upgrade to 2020. Visit the website for further details on that one. In fact, it's very good that we actually mentioned that, because I want to show you where you can find further details about ARCHLine.XP Live. So if you go to the website that we have, then you can find additional details at ARCHLineXP.com/product/ARCHLineXP Live, and here you can find more videos and more ideas about what Live actually is, how it could be used for a bathroom project or a larger project like this hotel over here. And if you want to find useful videos for that, then either go to the video gallery where you can find tutorial stuff like the one I'm doing right now, or you can go to the picture of the month to get inspired, or the gallery, and most important, in the system requirements. So if you want to get some learning materials, then that's the way to do it. So ARCHLineXP.com/product/ARCHLineXP Live is the way to go. And that is actually what I wanted to discuss today. Again, thank you very much for your attention. And as a farewell, let's just look at the very nice live videos that we have. We are so proud of this project, I can't show them enough. So thank you very much for your attention. See you next Thursday.